Welcome to Community Conversations with State Attorney Bain, your talk show for insights on the criminal justice system, community issues, and public safety in Orange and Osceola counties. Join State Attorney Andrew Bain as he dives into the issues that matter most to you, keeping it real every step of the way.
All right, welcome back to another episode of Community Connections. And we are rolling at this point now. This is about our fifth episode, which is kind of crazy for the first time of doing anything. And so we're in a groove right now. We're discussing ongoing issues that kind of come up in our community and always talking about what's going on at the office, so we can feel like that we are trying to get out the most information as possible. So we have about an hour to make that happen every week. There's always a lot happening every single week, including that we had a press conference earlier today talking about a gang that was dismantled by the work of the Orange County Sheriff's Office, the Orlando Police Department, and my prosecutors working together to keep our community safe. We were talking about fentanyl a lot in that press conference. There's obviously a fentanyl issue. There's been a continuing opiate issue here locally in our community. And we are here to combat that issue, both in providing treatment for those that have found themselves addicted to those drugs, and by holding people accountable for the ones that disperse and sell those drugs. We all know, and we all seen some of the PSAs related to that. So the fentanyl that's being sold on the streets is not the fentanyl that you get from the pharmacy. It's not so it's not like the old school back in the day where we had the pill mills and we had hydrocodone pills and oxycodone pills. That's not what's happening anymore. Right now, really the process goes on is that a lot of these cartel gangs get their drugs, precursors from China. So the ports in Mexico, especially, and in some of the Caribbean are super lax, and they are allowed to import these very dangerous precursors. They mix those drugs together, they press them into pills that look like hydrocodone pills or oxycodone pills, but they're really fentanyl. And we have people that die way too often. And so we start talking about that in our press conference today. We were prosecuting a gang here, a local gang that has been selling fentanyl. Has been at least connected to 3 prior homicides as related to the distribution of that drug. And so that is something that we want to continue to fight against, continue to battle against, because we're still losing way too many people to overdose deaths when it relates to opiates. A lot of you heard things about Narcan. If you are a citizen here in the circuit, I'm going to ask you to have at least 1 dose of Narcan inside of your home. It can save a person in your home's life, because we don't know where you can come in contact with some of these drugs. They could be on something. You can touch it. You can touch your face, touch your eye. It can get into your system, and then you will be almost paralyzed very quickly thereafter. And so those are things that we need to deal with and fight against always here in our circuit. We will always help the people that have been addicted to those drugs and try to find them liberty from that addiction. But we're also going to definitely hold people accountable when they cause mayhem and murder in our community by selling and dispersing fentanyl. But what do we want to talk to you about today? The topic that I had set up for you all prior to the press conference earlier today was talk about the juvenile system. So there are a lot of questions I get a lot when I'm out and about in the community, and people talk about the juvenile system and the kids and what does all that mean and all those kinds of things like that. So I want to kind of give a little kind of a surface area look at the juvenile system, and it's easier that way to compare to the adult system. So we have 2 things to kind of like understand where we're coming from. So the juvenile system, the terminology is different than the adult system. So for instance, when a child is, quote, arrested, we don't usually use that term. We call it taking a child into custody. And so that is like one of the different terminologies. You don't have warrants, for instance, for juveniles. You have custody orders that are issued by judges when a juvenile has been found probable cause that they have committed an offense here in our community. So there's always those kind of little small determinations. And because there is a difference in where the goals are for those two systems, the adult system is really designed to punish people. That is the goal of the adult system. That's what's written inside of the legislature's statutes and ideas when they want to talk about the adult system. Whereas on the juvenile side, this juvenile side is built for rehabilitation. And so everything's designed to rehabilitate the child, to get the child to a point where they won't no longer reoffend or be caught up in the criminal justice system, and they can become a normal, prosperous adult. Now, we all know that doesn't always happen. So we know that we have a lot of tools in our tool belt to make sure that we have a chance to kind of grow our ability to make that happen. So you see, that's why I talk a lot about civil citation and other types of diversion when it comes to teen court and different things that we have for juveniles, including our Attorney Page's literacy program, to try to prevent and divert them from continuing on the criminal justice system. And so we have a lot of that, and really successful when you get early on intervention, and we can get like sustaining intervention for that child moving forward, whether that's through mentorship, whether that's through education. There's all types of different ways we can make that happen. And so we want to continue to see that grow in our population when it comes to our juveniles, because we really started changing how we dealt with them, say roughly about 8 years ago. So we really, at that point in our time, about 8 years ago, we were like committing a lot of kids. So when you say committing, which is like you say put into custody, we put people in detention when it comes to juveniles. So that's another difference in terminology. So when you're in custody as or under arrest or in an inmate, use the word detention when it comes to juveniles. And so when you detain a juvenile and you want to send them to a residential treatment program, we were doing that a lot because we thought that was the answer, that we could just remove kids from the community and then put them in these residential treatment programs. We'll make them all better, and they'll come back and it'll be great. That was problematic because then we started seeing happening was super high recidivism rate started to kind of pop up when that happened. And because a lot of kids don't need to be committed. We need to find better ways inside of our communities to deal with our juvenile population. And so that comes with a lot of other things that go on. Partly like part of the conversations we had last week on the show, we had a conversation with Rachel Allen from the Peace and Justice Institute, talking about trauma, talking about community trauma, talking about environmental trauma, talking about family trauma, and all those different kind of things like that to help treat the children and the family so we can get better results. We're working there. We're working to get there. We're not anywhere close where we need to be. And we're going to talk about that a little bit with my guests a little later on, about a little difficulties about getting families involved, to getting the kids involved, to getting people really wanting to see that they can have hope in what they're trying to do. And so that's always something that's going to go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And so, but I want to give you a little procedural history when it comes to juvenile system, so you can have a little better understanding and how to understand how to deal with the adult system. And we talk about what people talk about the juvenile system. So since the juvenile system is designed for rehabilitation, there's a lot of hands-on approaches when it comes to dealing with a child. So when a child is taken into custody, all right, so they are detained and taken into custody, they go to the JAC, which is a evaluation center for the juvenile. So they look at everything when it comes to the juvenile. They look at their grades when it comes to school. They call the parents in, they like to interview them. They interview the child. They try to get as much information as possible to give to the judge, which would be at the detention hearing that they have to have within 24 hours after they're arrested or taken into custody. See, again. But that information we got to give to the judge comes in the form of a DRE score, which it gives you a risk assessment tool about whether the child should be released to the parent, whether the child should be released on electronic monitoring, whether the child should be released on home confinement, whether the child should remain detained inside of the juvenile detention center, depending their case. So you hear a lot about that. So you'll see a lot about that going on. And so you want to make sure that we have the best information that we can to make that decision for the child. And so the determination that is slightly different than when it comes to the adult system. So the adult system, you want to keep people, it has all these factors. It really has to do with public safety. It has to deal with the danger of the person, the likelihood that they're going to reoffend while they're out on bond, the history of the person, their failure to appear in court, the failure to abide by court orders. All those kind of different things play a factor into the adult system. Where in the juvenile system, it's slightly different. There's a public safety aspect to what the judges have to do, but the idea is to do what's in the best interest of the child, which is the standard when you talk about most family, when you talk about delinquency and dependency type cases. Your idea is to do what's in the best interest of the child, and to make, again, the idea is rehabilitation. So we do that. We try to make that happen. So that's really something that we try to do on an everyday basis. But after that detention hearing that the child does have, they move to the regular court process, almost like an adult case, but it's a much faster paced situation. The speed trial rules are faster. You have to get that case ready within a month, usually close to it, or shorter, because again, they want to get the child in and out so they don't remain lingering in the system. And so that puts a lot of stress on my office. Puts a lot of stress on my juvenile prosecutors to make sure that they are doing that on a day-to-day basis, that they're processing the cases, they're filing the cases, they're dealing with the juvenile, they're dealing with the parents of the juvenile, dealing with the victims, the parents, sometimes the parents of the victim. So many moving parts when it comes to that. But the difference is that you're trying to move to a adjudicative hearing. And so you want to have, like, that hearing is held by the judge. There's no jury trials in juvenile court. So there will never be a jury in a juvenile case. So that hearing is held by the judge. So the judge is the fact finder, the judge is the lawgiver in that situation. And so they hear cases all the time, which makes also the thing is that cases go by faster again. So which puts a lot of stress on my juvenile prosecutors to get cases ready, to be ready to go, to have the evidence collected. And sometimes some of these cases are not just they stole a candy bar. It's like sometimes very serious cases where there's robberies with guns and home invasions and different very serious cases that you have to get ready in a short period of time. And that, again, puts a lot of stress on our office to make sure that happens. And so we always have that going on. And then, so you also we talk about the, sometimes we have to file kids as adults. And so that happens mandatory based on the law that's given by our legislature. And there's some discretionary times when I can decide to file a child directly to the adult system. Those factors usually that I include in that has to do with the age of the child, whether the education level of the child, whether the child has been provided services in the past, what services are available that we have not provided, the use of firearms, gang affiliations, and family dynamics are usually kind of some of the main factors that I look at when thinking about whether to direct file a child into the system. And we're not talking about very nonviolent offenses. We're talking about homicides or some attempted homicides. Again, sometimes some home invasions, carjackings, where firearms are used. Some gang activity that brings about an concern that there's going to be an ongoing criminality that's going to continue if we don't put a stop or halt to this behavior during that time. So those are some of the things that play a factor in that. But right now, I want to talk about kind of an experiment that we did this summer with the help of Secretary Hall from the Department of Juvenile Justice and with the Orange County School District. And we had a career exploration program that we tried to get off the ground. Actually, we did get off the ground eventually. And we had some great participants inside the program. And my partner in crime in making that happen, I like to use that term, so I'm a prosecutor, is none other than the Miss Rosa Grant from the Orange County School. And we've been working this out with our kids this summer. So good afternoon, Ms. Grant. How are you?
Good afternoon, State Attorney Bain. How are you?
All right. So tell the people who the great and magnanimous uh, Dr. Rosa Grant is.
Well, I don't know about all that, but I'm Rosa Grant. I'm the executive leader for career and technical education here in the Orange County Public Schools. And I support all of the career and technical programs on the secondary side, meaning middle and high school, as well as the technical side.
All right. And so you like me, like we were all kind of new to this job in a way. Even though we've been involved in the schools, you were involved in the school system for a long time. I've been involved in the court and criminal justice system for a long time. But tell us like how you came to be in this role that you found yourself in right now.
Does voluntold count? No, just kidding. Well,
Yes, that sounds about right.
If we're gonna go way back, I started as an attendance clerk with Orange County Public Schools, and later became a teacher. And then I started doing career services at the high schools, and from there, and back then we called it tech prep coordinator, and that was helping students with careers. And from there, I went to the district office as a program coordinator. I worked at our technical campus as an assistant director, later to come back to the district to work under Dr. Armbruster as a senior director over career and technical education. And recently, the executive director, she left and went and got a new job. And so Dr. Armbruster asked me to participate in this position. And so here I am.
All right. So what I mean, so I learned a lot. So like a lot of people that have been listening to me speak a lot. I've been for the past year or almost at this point, just traveling our circuit, trying to find people that can help me help our kids and help our affected population. And Grant and I are kind of like one of my travels, got a chance to meet and talk and learn like about a lot of amazing things that I didn't even know that Orange County Schools had at their disposal, especially when it came to kids and careers and technical. And so can you just talk to people a little bit about, kind of what you guys provide at OTech over in your multiple locations that you have throughout the county?
Yes, so we have 5 locations. We have Avalon, the main campus, which focuses on healthcare programs. Mm-hmm. And we have our South campus, which focuses on transportation and logistics, also manufacturing, and a little bit of IT. Our East campus focuses on information technology as well, business management, arts and AV. And then we have our West campus, and it has a focus of construction. So architect and construction, we have a little bit of manufacturing out there, as well as human services. So we have a wide range of programs that students can take. And we sort of like to say we are a career in a year. Most of our programs you can finish in a year and then go to the workforce. Some of our programs are short, like CDL. We have CDL courses that's very short, and we put people to work very fast. We have some of our manufacturing programs that's 6 months long, and students are able to get employment, viable employment with those programs. Let's see, what else? Oh, we also serve dual enrollment students. So students can go to their high school for half a day, and then we transport them to one of our technical campuses the other half of the day. And this past year, we had 307 students graduate with their career certificate. So those students are either going off to school or going to work. So that's our core. It's getting a career, regardless of what career you want to do. We think of ourselves as stepping stones for a career.
And we're not talking about minimum wage jobs, right? We're talking about careers, right?
Yes, careers, good paying jobs, high skill, high wage jobs. And that's how we are measured, making sure our students get jobs.
Right. And so like I'm really I'm very interested in the dual enrollment sector of this process, because it's something that I think that a lot of parents don't know about. And I try to talk to parents about that, like, hey, are you talking to your kids about what they're doing next? Do they have a plan about what they're doing next? If they don't have a plan, we can get them ready for that plan before they leave high school. And before they leave high school, they're like, well, okay, so now what do I do now? In June after you graduate. And so we can get them ready for at least a career, at least initial career. It doesn't have to be the last career you have, but at least that first one. I mean, so kind of walk if a parent wanted to talk about dual enrollment, who do they talk to, where do they go, what's the steps they have to go through to make that happen?
So each one of our high schools have what we have career specialists. So each career specialist, they are the conduit to help students enroll in our technical programs to do dual enrollment. So that's all they need to do is go see their career specialist, and the career specialist will tell them all the openings we have and what we have available. And like I said, it's very fruitful. Students really enjoy it. They have, I know a couple of students personally, who may be going to college, but they've used these classes as a good solid foundation. And then others, we had a student who did dual enrollment welding, and he's going off to make like $90,000 a year. So and we have people who even attended our culinary programs who are making more because they took our culinary program. So yes, parents, please go see your career specialist. Every high school has one.
All right. And so this is like different than a magnet program, right? So when you think about a magnet school, you got to go apply, you got to go, and then you got to get in, and then they'll bus your kids to the magnet school. This is a program where your kids can go to their normal high school, or and then get transported from that high school to the program and back.
Yes, right? That's it. The only requirement, and it's in the law, is that they have a 2.0. But, we work with students. When I used to work at Oak Ridge, and I would talk to students in the 9th grade, and I'd say, hey, we've got to get this GPA up. And we would work with students to get their GPA up. But, there are things to do. They can go in the summer, so don't let that stop them. They still need to go and talk to that career specialist and work out a path for them.
So it's about making the game plan. So parents, it's about making a game plan with your child. So what's the saying that if you're not preparing to succeed, you're preparing to fail. So you have to make a game plan preparing for your child. So I know school opens on Monday, and so there's a lot of open houses going on this week, a lot of meet the teachers going on this week, all those types of things. But while you're at the school, talk to the administration about speaking to that coordinator. So talk to them, speaking to that career coordinator, because again, we have to get the kids ready to succeed and have something to do, some goal to reach. And we'll talk a minute about that, because we had a program this summer. We were slated for about 17 kids. And we tried to get some parents motivated in the same way I'm talking to you all right now. But we weren't that successful, were we? I mean, we were successful in a way, but we were
successful. But, we had students.
We had students, so we didn't get a complete no. But we did about 5. So we had about 5 consistent students that attended about 80% of the program during the summer, and it was kind of an interesting dynamic, trying to make sure that they were going to get there every day. That we're going to wake them up. I think at one point we offered to pick the kids up from the parents' job, so they make sure they got up every day. And it was a little bit of a struggle. I mean, so it was great. You guys, how you felt about it? I had a lot of anxiety every Monday when I was like, all right, so are we going to get them there today?
Right. Yeah. And we would encourage them, before they left, remember, set your alarm. You're coming back tomorrow, right? And for the most part, the 5 who were committed, they were committed, unless they had something to do with, court or something like that. They showed up, and the students really enjoyed the program, and they were good kids. So I wouldn't say that it was we tried, we did, and we can only go up from here. And if we touch one student, it's worth it.
Yeah. So no, we're gonna get better. I'm already marking a plan. Me, I'm always planning for something. So I'm already planning for next year. And so we're definitely going to get better next year. But I just want to talk a little bit about what was the program like? What did we cover? How did we structure it? so we can kind of give the people that are listening kind of an idea of what we were trying to do.
Yes. So the students came to us every morning. The school bus picked them up and dropped them off at our South Campus. And there they were in six. Yours was in 6 different tracks. We talked about construction, arts and AV, business, transportation, logistics, manufacturing, and hospitality. So each week, students would rotate, and they learned about that particular cluster, right? They also did industry visits. So some students may have went to a hotel to learn about all the different jobs in a hotel. It's not just, front desk or being a housekeeper. There are many fruitful jobs at the hotels. And then we went to a local construction company, Finfrock, where they learned about all the jobs at Finfrock. We had manufacturers come in and do a speaker series, and they did like a speed dating activity with the students. So that was very fun, and the students enjoyed that. We had guest speakers from Orlando Health come each week. So we had a wide variety. The students were never bored because we kept them busy, and they learned about different employment opportunities and different careers right here in their backyard. Yeah. So I think that it was a very good program, and I think the students got a lot out of it.
Yeah, I was super excited because I kind of targeted a under-resourced area of our community. Most of these kids came from South Apopka or Wakaiba out there, and so we know in that space we need an OTEC out there or something.
We got one closer. It's not in Apopka, but we have one closer now in Ocoee.
Correct. So we had one in Ocoee. But we know in that space that, traditionally for the people that live here, that there's not a lot of things for the kids to do out there. I was actually talking to a father that lost his son to a shooting that happened in South Apopka a few years back, and he's talking about exactly that. Like, there's nothing for the people to do, and so we're looking. So that's what was really my heart, to make sure that we were trying to see, hey, how if we're going to do this, can we make this happen? And I was super excited. They were able to do that with these kids. So talk to us about, like, what do you think? How big can we make this? How can we grow it? What do you think?
It could be big as your pockets. We need some support from the businesses, because it's all good, right? But it does cost. We got transportation costs, teacher costs, and then we had food here. Our campus provided food because we do have hospitality here, a culinary program. But I think if we could get the word out, we get parents engaged, get them excited. I think that it could definitely grow bigger. I can see it getting really big. So I think we can do that.
I think we can do it too. I think this year's the funding resource was the Department of Juvenile Justice. So Secretary Hall came to visit my office just before the summer started. And I was like, I kind of pulled him to the side, like, hey, do you have any money? And so I was like, I need about this amount of money. This is the budget. I'm going to send it to you. And so we were going to, make that happen. So that's and then so this year my plan is to kind of I want to hijack Tadar Muhammad and what he does over there at Career Source. And so they have I think it's called TIF money. And so there's money that the Department of Children and Families may have for us for kids that are eligible for food stamps and eligible for SNAP. And that's kind of how they fund a lot of their summer program that they have. So if you're not in my summer program, hopefully because your kid is a good kid and not in trouble, you always check out Career Source. They have summer programs as well. Some of them they're at OTEC as well, and many other places. I see Mr. Carl Battles listening to us. He's from Central Florida Urban League. He has a bunch of kids there at Central Florida Urban League to help them as well. And so, like, those type of I'm trying to like copy what they have going on, so we make sure we have proper funding, because that's always a big thing when it comes to doing these programs.
Yes, that's true. So any way we can, get some additional funding, but, we appreciate um, Commissioner Hall coming through
Yeah.
with funds. So
Yeah.
that was good.
Yeah. So it was. I think it was successful for those kids, and I think that I think what happened to be interesting at the end, like I had planned this whole day with them, and then everybody was like, "I'm tired," basically.
Yeah,
So,
but they hung in there for like what, 6 or 7 weeks.
yeah,
That was the 8th week. So they hung in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
one of the things I wanted to do with them, because I'm just like, I like to do fun stuff, and it's right down the street from where the courthouse is here in Orange County. There's EA Sports in the Creative Village area, where the old Amway used to be, and where the kids can do a lot of arts and different things like this. But one of those is EA Sports, and since they're not giving me NIL money anytime soon, so I missed my check from the NCAA the first time. A lot of people are playing the game now. They brought back NCAA and the football game, and so I had this whole thing planned with them where everybody was like,
that's okay. Next year.
Next year we'll bring them down, and we'll get them connected with even more people. I think I had a plan with Full Sail as well. Try to get them to do some, film or music or something, and so we're going to try to expand the types of careers they want to be involved in. And so again, the idea is keep them busy, so then they don't become problems for our criminal justice system and for their parents and for our community, and we can get them going in the right direction. So I'm super pumped up about making that happen. So, so other than the money, what other careers do you think we should be looking at, for these kids?
Well, I think that we should look at all careers, because you never know what a student will do. Put them in the right situation. And they may do different things. A lot of our programs, like I said, they're short term, right? They can go to work, but guess what? They go to work and the employer may say, hey, we pay for you to go to school, and then they're going up the ladder. Now they're a manager, now they're executive leader, so I think the sky is the limit for students, and our job is to give them the opportunity. So whatever opportunity, I had students before that say, I want to be a nurse. And then they go and they figure out, oh, I got to deal with blood. Yeah, that's what nurses do, And then they say, nah, that's not for me, So I think, they need to know, they need to explore. So that's why I like, that you expose students to this summer program, because they learned about different things they had no knowledge about.
Yeah, I think that it's going to always continue to be an ongoing thing with them, because it's like you don't know what you know. Right. You don't know what you don't know. You just kind of like going through it and trying to figure out what's going to happen, and try to get into what's going to happen next. Right. And so I always tell a story about that. It's like when I didn't know kind of that was at a lower end of the economic scale until I got to the University of Miami for the first time. And then I realized I was at Coral Gables, which is not like Overtown or Liberty City or where I grew up in Larder Lakes or Pompano. Much different lifestyle for people there. For the majority of people that live there, a lot of trust fund people, a lot of people that's had generational wealth inside their families. They they couldn't go broke if they tried, type people. And so understanding that, okay, so how do we get there? Like, so somebody, I read a book by Malcolm Gladwell, and he talks about this, and he's saying like, all those families, somebody in that family in a generation kind of had to sacrifice. Like had to sacrifice like everything to try to make that happen. So how do we do that? Who's going to make that sacrifice? Am I going to be the one in my generation is going to make that sacrifice for my entire lineage, basically for my family going forward? What am I going to do that? Like, what skills do I need? Who do I need to talk to? Who do I need to, connect myself with in networking? So we talk. I mean, I think you guys all talked about that kind of stuff, like the kind of soft skill stuff that kind of goes along with what's going on. So
Yep.
can you talk to people a little bit about the soft skill world of
Yes.
involving careers and stuff?
Yes, we had several. Actually, every week they had a series on workplace readiness skills. So the students were, exposed to different scenarios. They would work out different scenarios where some students would be the boss and some people would call in to work, or certain people would not be doing their job correctly. So we put them in different scenarios for workplace readiness skills, and being kind. I mean, that's one, right? Smiling instead of not just looking at people like what. So they went through a lot of different workplace readiness skills workshops.
Yeah. So I'm excited to see Carl's in here. He has the Microsoft Office Suite certification for all the Orange County's students. And so Carl works, like I said, at the Urban League, which is like right down the street. So if you're looking at Evans, you can almost see the building where there is the Urban League is over there. So he's a great resource as well, providing opportunities for a lot of these kids.
And they definitely need Microsoft.
Yeah.
I wish they would make that a requirement. We've been trying.
I don't know if I would pass. If I had to do an Excel spreadsheet class, like
well, at least Word, okay?
I may not be able to do it. So yeah, so that's always an interesting thing with those things. And computer literacy is a thing. I mean,
Yes.
We talk about it. I mean, we kind of, all of us that kind of work inside now, they'll kind of joke about it, but computer literacy is a real boundary or burden for some people. And I learned a little bit about that in creation of our diversion program as well, and that's why I had to build in kind of case managers to help people navigate some of the technical aspects of the program, because it was it could be something that keeps people out.
Mm-hmm.
And so we want to make sure that we're going to be inclusive in how we deal with those people. So
one more thing I want to mention, what we did, we also had an entrepreneur series for students. These students are very talented. They can draw, they can make things, so we did have a series of entrepreneurs come in and talk to them. It's like, listen, I started in my mom's garage, or I have anything. So building social capital for these students, I think, is important. So that's one of the things we need to try to focus on next time, is how do we connect them, with businesses and people who have come, to some kind of struggle just like they have, So I thought that the students really like hearing about how some of the entrepreneurs got started. One guy, he was like, I failed 8 times, but I was determined. And so I kept going. And hearing that, it's like, okay, you may fail. It's okay. Brush yourself off and start again.
Yeah, it was fun. I mean, big shout out again, because I'll talk a little bit about this past weekend and what we had going on for our back to school event. Big shout out to Safe Tax and my guy Jermaine Jones, who's one of these entrepreneurs just like that. So Jermaine will tell you his story about he was homeless, basically sleeping in his car, and now he's a multi-million-dollar entrepreneur here locally, straight out of Orlando, and is doing great work in the community as well as employing people, which is, again, we start those types of things. So we are, that's what I'm all about. So, and trying to provide, to make sure we're providing opportunities, because poverty is an ongoing struggle, and where there's places where they're high in poverty, you're gonna have be places where they're high in crime. It really doesn't. I mean, ethnicity. This in America, it tends to be Black and brown communities, but anywhere in the world, even in the country where there's poverty, you're going to have high crime, and so we have to be vigilant about addressing those issues, and about trying to be creative and finding those solutions to those issues. And so this was just a first step in making sure that happens, and the first step into growing that potential for those kids. And hopefully maybe we can get some private dollars to go along with our summer program, some sponsorship. So if you're a private company out there and you're looking to help us keep some kids busy this summer that have found themselves maybe ineligible for other summer programs because they're on probation, we are going to be that source for those kids to make sure that A, they're going to have something to do, B, they're going to have food in their stomach at least during the program, and C, we're going to try to open up new avenues and windows for those, or the third thing, make sure new avenues and windows for those juveniles, and to make sure that those kids, again, have an opportunity to see something else. So it's not, I talked a little earlier about, what was going on with how I decided to file on kids as adults. It is not my favorite thing. It's probably one of the hardest decisions I have to make on a day-to-day basis. And other than deciding whether we're seeking a death penalty in homicide cases, it's a really big decision that I take very seriously with how we address our community. So I'm looking for any entrepreneurs out there listening on the sound of my voice that want to help out, that want to be a part of it, want to help sponsor. We'll find a way to get you connected and to make sure that we're going to be able to provide this service for even more kids next summer, and possibly with the help of Judge Whitehead, a little more motivation for some of them to get involved because that's the name of the game. So it's great. So talk to people, because you've been in there. You just told me you got years of experience here in the school system. Tell me about the kids that don't plan. So we got to talk about those kids too. We talk about all the good kids, the good stories. So let's talk about the kids that don't plan. So tell me, I know you got some stories about that.
Well, the kids that don't plan, we try to recruit them to come on over here to us, because if they don't have a plan, we're going to help them with the plan, and that's the thing. This year we want to get out and talk to more parents. So I'm hoping that you have parents on here who are listening and, want to encourage their students to come to our technical campuses so we can help them with the plan, even if they're in high school. That career specialist, that's why we invest almost $2 million in career specialists to help students figure out what they're going to do. What's the next step? So we have students who don't have plans, but that's okay. We're trying to help them find out which way they want to go. We're here to help, and we want to support the students all the way around.
Right. So I just had a thought. Give me a little bit of connecting information, because some people on the sound of my voice may be at a charter school. They may be doing for the virtual or something similar to that. So how would they connect with your school?
If you're at a charter school, if you're homeschool, or if you're a private school, you just need to contact what we have at our technical campuses called post-secondary specialists. And those people can help you get connected, and they can do dual enrollment as well. So, we're here, for everybody. We try to help everyone, not just certain people.
No, I get it. And that's a beautiful thing. That's where I'm always excited about the ability for us to do that, and for us to continue to grow our partnership, one, and the continued partnerships of everyone else. Because again, I like dealing with people that want to help people. And that's their motivation, and that's their sole motivation for what they do. And so Dr. Grant is one of those people. And so I'm always privileged to work with you and your team, and to make sure that we are going to continue to do better every single day.
Well, I appreciate you, looking out for the students in juvenile justice. We've never had anyone approach us to say, hey, I want to help, the kids. So we greatly appreciate your partnership, and we are definitely looking forward to see what we can do bigger and better this year. Yes,
sir. Yes, ma'am. We're going to do big things. Like I said, again, we're going I will find the money. We'll find. I will turn over some rocks.
I'll look too.
I'll make some phone calls. I will find the people that or find a way to structure it to make sure we have the tools for our kids at the Ninth Circuit, and hopefully we can replicate. I know Osceola Technical as well is looking to get in on the situation. So hopefully we replicate that in Osceola County as well next year. Yes. And we can have both counties getting their kids getting the benefit of this type of resource, especially in the summertime months where kids are not in school and just free to roam and get in trouble. So that is going to be the goal moving forward. But
that would be awesome.
So thank you for coming on, Dr. Grant. I appreciate you.
You're welcome.
Hope
Thank you for having me.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, have a good one. We'll be in touch.
Yes, ma'am.
All righty, bye-bye.
All right, so that is what we do, man. That is the solution to one of the biggest problems we have here in our community, and it does two things. We can keep our kids off the streets, keep from breaking into cars, stealing guns. We had a very tragic shooting about a little over a week ago, where another situation where a child, I believe was 16 years old, shot their 15-year-old friend in the head, just playing around with a gun. So it's not what we want to see. Some of the worst phone calls that I get during the week is about either a juvenile killing another juvenile, or a juvenile just killing anyone. Is one of the toughest calls I have to take and field and try to deal with how we're going to handle that here internally in the office. And so that is what we're here to do, to help protect our community. But we have to be able to provide actual resources, actual solutions. We've been talking about the same things when it comes to our community since I was a kid, and with my father was a kid for about some of those things. And even with my grandparents, and my great grandparents, I'm talking about that. Whether it's the literacy rates that we're talking about in our communities, we need to continue to do that work and actually provide real time, actual solutions. And we need to request that people refund those solutions. We just don't, say it's a one and done. That we're just going to give up. We're just going to just do this one little thing and then that be it. We have to continue to work to figure out how we're going to fund it, how we're going to continue to provide those tools, and hopefully at some point maybe they become institutionalized in how we function, and it will deal with just keeping the kids busy, as well as deal with the poverty issues that drive crime rates in our community. So those are all amazing things that we continue to work on. So I want to talk a little bit about this past weekend. Saturday was amazing. Only I hope that we would have a little bit more participation from our community in the workshop portion of our Saturday, because we gave out great information. We talked about how trauma relates to every little different function of our lives, and the importance of if we're going to have kids that have adverse childhood experiences. If they're gonna score, especially in that 4 or so range of adverse childhood experiences, how do we have the positive childhood experiences to kind of counterbalance what's going on there, and over time, heal maybe a whole line or a whole family of people. And so we're talking about whether that's neglect, we're talking about whether that's abuse, we're talking about whether that's poverty, structural racism. We're talking about being having a family member that's incarcerated. We're talking about all those different things that can provide a childhood trauma to a child, abandonment, divorce, all those kind of things like that. And we have to continue to put in positive childhood experiences. We got to talk about mentors. We got to talk about providing proper nutrition. We talk about providing safety in their own spaces. We got to talk about, whether, with the systemic type racism things that occur that we actually can just, undo. And some of them that we look at, think about, well, why are we doing it this way? And just simply by asking that question, why are we doing it this way? Why do we continue to do this pattern of behavior that's going to continue to grow and destroy our community and cause unnecessary adversity for a child? And so then we don't talk about adversity. We're talking about negative adversity. Adversity is good. Your child and myself and a lot of us will have to have adversity because it motivated them to get to the levels of greatness. And that's what we want to do. We want to motivate those kids to get to the level of greatness. And so that is the idea behind continuing to have those discussions about ACEs, and which is adverse childhood experiences, or PACEs, which talks about positive childhood experiences. And so that's about continuing having those conversations around those situations, so we can continue to educate parents, educate teachers, educate each other about that situation, so we can, again, build a healthier community. We want to build a resilient community. We want to build a strong community. We want to build a safe community. Those are all things that we need to continue to do that work. And we also did have a back to school event. I said again, big shout out to my guy Jermaine Jones at Safe Tax. We partner up with my office. I brought along Second Harvest Food Bank. They provided 150 meals to parents. He provided about 300 backpacks to kids and to bikes. He brought out a laptop that he raffled off, some AirPods. We provided Grow Healthy Kids, which is an amazing nonprofit. They provide recreational equipment. So we provided basketballs to kids so they can go and shoot or just dribble the basketball, have some activity they can do outside of their home that they can't get to a park. So there's plenty of kids that just need a little recreation that may not have access to it outside of just going to school. So we have a big, huge transitional homeless population when it comes to kids, where they're moving from motel to motel or sleeping in cars. It's a really big issue that we're dealing with here locally with our kids, and it's still something, again, that has to provide with building a more resilient and safer community. I'd rather a kid be dribbling a basketball outside his balcony instead of like running around breaking into cars. It's something, and then because that always going to provide them, put them in a dangerous situation where they could be injured, either with an encounter with the owner of that vehicle and or with law enforcement. So we want to make sure that we're going to provide safer communities in all respects. So we want to continue to do that work day to day, over and over again, so that we can, again, build out a community going forward. So I really look forward to next summer and giving you all an update about where we're going to be going, who's come on as sponsors and partners in that summer program. And so we can, again, continue to build up our community and provide actual solutions and not just continue to talk about problems. So let's move into the last section of our show, and we're going to talk about, my motivational minute. And this is one of my kind of things when we talk about dealing with our kids, and we talk about dealing with, where you want to go. Like, what is that plan? Let's make the plan to continue to do great work, right? So what goes into that? Well, to come from where a lot of these kids where we deal with, to come from where I grew up, it's going to take courage. Courage is key in making your dreams a reality. All right. So it's going to be scary. All right. It's not going to look like you're going to make it sometimes. It's going to be a situation sometimes where you're going to have to just step out on faith and just pray and hope that it's going to work out. But if you're courageous in doing that on every day, every chance you get, you're going to be a person of good courage. You're going to do it because you love the thing that you want to do. You love your family. You love your community. You love all the people that set up where you're going to be in life. All right, so you put forth the idea that you have that as part of who you are. And so courage is the key to that, making that happen. You have to be courageous. All right, so I go talk to kids, especially when I talk to kids at all these different schools or in these little mentorship groups, or I mentor to my own mentees. This is a conversation that I have with them probably every other talk that every chance we get a chance to speak, because you're going to be afraid. You have to accept that there's going to be some fear that goes along with any decision to do something that nobody else in your family or your community has done before. There's going to be this, this nagging feeling that you're going to have in your heart about making that happen. But you still have to be courageous, because the dream is just like, it's hope. All right. So when you have a dream, it's just hope. It's just like, then that hope has to turn into a faith. And so how do you turn that hope into a faith? You have to be courageous, because you start building the evidence that this thing that I want can actually happen. And this is not talking about winning the lotto or becoming like the prince of some or king of some unknown country. This is talking about just simple things. So why I set out to become a lawyer. So there was no examples of that. There was nobody that I could call in my family or my friend circle and be like, hey, how do we get this done? I was exposed to this when I was at the University of Miami. I fell in love with the concept of it. I grew a mentor out of that situation. But even still, it was still just me having to make that decision. It was me having to decide to go study for the LSAT and to sacrifice all these different things to make sure that I was going to get a good enough LSAT score to get into school. And then once that happened, I had to, there was nobody to call about, okay, what about this class you take? Or can I borrow your notes? Or there was none of that. It was just go out there and be courageous, do the work hard so you can be successful. And so that's what happens. That's what happens every single day. You have to do that over and over again. And so it was sometimes even my wife doubted me. It was like, are we going to make it? And I had to tell her, we're going to make it. We're going to make it because we have the courage and the willpower to make sure it happens. And it just continues that it doesn't matter, whatever it is. When I wanted to decide that I was going to be a judge, that was going to be my calling going forward. And I had to put in the work to make that happen. So what people don't understand is that I got told no about 7 times before I got a yes. So it was not just a turn in the application and all of a sudden that you were a judge. It was you turn the application, you got to go through the process. You had to rewrite the application. You got to go through the process again. You have to continue to work the process and to prove and show that you are of character enough to become a judge. And that's how it worked. And so it's hours and weeks of work. It's making phone calls, making calls to people that you don't even know. You're just cold calling people and saying, hey, my name is, in this case, Andrew Bain. This is my goal and this is my dream. Can you help me? It's being courageous enough to do that, to ask for help and to understand that this is something that you want to continue to do on an everyday basis. And so that is the goal. And so you want to be courageous and you want to reach your dreams, go for it. Go as hard and don't let anybody tell you that you can't. Just go out there and make it happen. So I'm going to close out today to talk and give a shout out again to my big sponsors from Saturday. That's Safe Tax, that's Second Harvest Food Bank, that's Grow Healthy Kids, that is the Orange County Sheriff's Office for coming out to make sure that we're going to have an orderly event. That's New Covenant Baptist Church on Rio Grande, where we hosted the event. They were great hosts there. That's the Peace and Justice Institute for helping put on the workshop I want to give a big shout out to all the parents and community leaders that came out to that event. We had some, not just parents and community leaders, we had some people from foster care there, all taking in that information, again, with the idea that we're going to continue to build a safer, more prosperous community on a day-to-day basis. It's going to take day-to-day work to make that happen. And I'm so excited and happy that we have partners here, locally here in Orange and Osceola County to make sure that happens. So I want to see you all next week for more conversations and more connections and more of building for a stronger and safer community. You all have a great day.
You've been listening to Community Conversations with State Attorney Bain. Join us again next Wednesday from 2 to 3 p.m. for another episode. You've been listening to Community Conversations with State Attorney Bain. Join us again next Wednesday from 2 to 3 p.m. for another episode.